Mr. Derry here. We're going to show you how to use Solidworks to create your claw design, bringing a sketch or a photograph into Solidworks. So I've got Solidworks open. I'm going to go to new part. Depending if you're working in inches or millimeters, you want to go right down here in the lower right hand corner and change your units, whether it's millimeters, centimeters, or inches. I'm going to be working in inches. I want to put my sketch on the front plane, so I'm going to select the front plane. I can either go up here to sketch, or I could just right click and click sketch here. Now my computer's set up to go normal too, but you might want to right click and go normal too, so you're looking at it. Right now I'm looking at the bottom of it. You can see my arrow flip the other way. If I go normal too one more time, I'm looking at it straight on. Alright, sketch picture, I've got it loaded on my bar, but you probably will not. So you're going to need to search under commands. Make sure you're set up to commands, and you can start typing in sketch and then just click sketch picture. Got Kelly's sketch here, and she took a picture of their drawing. Some of you might have a picture of your actual model, and that's fine. Once the picture comes in, we need to use this blue arrow to actually scale the photograph so that when we're drawing it's accurate. So I'm going to grab the pointer of the arrow and move it down towards my 12, and then I'm going to grab tail of the arrow, put it at 0. Oops, I got to move the pointer back towards the 12 again. And now it's asking me how long is that blue line. Well, I want that line to be 12 inches. So I'm going to just type in 12, and now it's scaled my drawing. Now my drawing is off from the origin, so I'm going to grab that and move it closer to the origin just so it makes it a little bit easier to work with. I'll put the center of the Y in there. We're going to use the same drawing or same sketch to draw a few of our parts. Now I'd like you to draw this thing a little bit. Some folks started drawing and notice that this side looks different than this side. We're going to make one and try to get it to look pretty accurate. So I'm going to grab my sketch tool, or my line tool rather, and I'm just going to come up here and trace this out pretty close to the drawing. But notice how I've got how it's making these parallel to that, and I can pick up that point. So try to do a neat job as you move this along. Alright, it would be nice to also put some dimensions on this. So I'm going to come up here under dimension tool, and how far apart are these guys? That's pretty big. I think we could be down to 3/4 of an inch. When we dimension it, it may goof things up a little bit, so we'll have to move it around a little bit and see. These things I think are supposed to be perpendicular to each other, so let me show you how to add a relationship. So if I click on this one, hold the shift key, click on that, I can add a perpendicular relationship, and then I'd like to have maybe a parallel relationship between these two. So again, hold the shift key, select both of them, and make them parallel. That looks good. Alright. Let's see if I can now make this be the same width. There we go. So that looks a little cleaner. Now my drawing isn't matched up perfectly with that, so if I hit the escape button, I could move my drawing to try to reline it up again to make sure that I'm drawing it accurately. And I think that looks pretty good. We now need to put a hole in here. So I'm going to go back to my sketch, grab a circle, and the holes that we're making are going to be 0.144, which is the clearance size for a number 6 screw. Now I've got this 3/4 of an inch wide. It'd be nice to have this centered, so I'm going to grab a dimension tool, come in here, and make it half a 3/4, which is 0.375. And I'm going to make it the same distance from the end here so it's consistent. Looks good. Alright, so that looks like a decent claw. I'm going to exit my sketch. If I have my sketch selected, I can go to Features, Extruded Boss, and it should light up for me, and I'm going to make it 1/4 of an inch thick. Okay. Now I'm only going to make one of these because the claws are identical. It's a mirror image. So I'm going to go File, go to Save As, and put it in my claw folder. I'm actually going to put it in my claw folder. And we'll call it claw. Actually, I'll say dairy claw. All right. Now, just like we did with the Sea Perch PVC, if you do a save as, you can use the same thing to make another part. So I'm going to go to File, go to Save As, and I'm going to call it Y, because I'm going to make the Y part now. Now, what we're going to need to do is delete this, and then go in and edit our sketch. Now, in this case, again, I want to look normal too. I don't want any of these lines. I want to draw this part down here, which is my Y. So I'm going to come in here and just make a box around all this. Oops, come out here, make a box around that, delete it. And I'm going to draw this bottom part. Now, in drawing the Y, this part needs to be symmetrical. So let me show you a trick. I'm going to move this so that the center of the Y is right on the picture. And I'm going to put under here, we can pick a center line, which will be actually a mirror line for us. So we're only going to draw half of this thing. So I'm going to come up here, grab my line tool, click right on that mirror line, and come up, draw this, come down to here, and make a nice straight line. And okay, so now we got to give some dimensions. If you remember from last time, whoops, this was 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to make it the same. These probably should be perpendicular to each other, so I'm going to select those two and make them perpendicular. Those two are already parallel, so that's good. Now this, if we want this to also be 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to dimension it off the center line and make it half of that. Or actually I can go to the right of the center line and type in 3/4. Either way, if I'm to the right of the center line, it's actually giving me a center dimension. I'm going to go to the left and just type in 0.375. Okay, so now we got half of it except for our hole here. So we want to put our hole in there, which, as you remember, is we've got to dimension that to 0.144, 144 thousandths. We're going to make it 3/8 of an inch from the end. By the way, in Solidworks, you can also type the fraction in. If you don't know what the decimal equivalent is, you can type in 3 divided by 8, and it'll put the number in for you. All right, so now we got half of this drawn. So now we're going to go up to Mirror Entities, Entities to Mirror. I'm going to select all of the things that we just drew. And they'll turn light blue. Then Mirror About, we're going to select that center line, and boom. Now, it will be a closed path if you made sure that you drew that line right on the start of your center line, and this one into the center line. So now when I exit Sketch, go to Features, oops, I want to select my sketch, go to Features, Extruded Boss, again, 0.25, and I now have my Y. All right, File, Save As, Dairy Y, hit Save, yes. All right, so we got one more part to draw, and that's the linkage. And that's going to present a problem you're going to see in a little bit, but that's all right. So we're going to go to File, go to Save As again. Oops, Save As. And it's going to be Dairy Linkage. I'll say link. All right. Okay, once again, we want to delete this now. Make sure you've renamed it. It says link up here, right? You don't want to delete what you just did. All right, we're going to keep that same sketch. And, oh, we forgot to put a hole in the claw. I'll show you how to do that later. All right, so we need to put a linkage that goes from the claw to the center here. All right, so I'll show you a trick for doing the linkage. Again, I want to look normal to this. I'm going to come in here, and there's a cool tool called the slot command, where I can click right here on the center of that and the center of that, and it'll make a nice little linkage for me. So then all I need to do, now if I knew what that linkage length was supposed to be, I could actually come in here and give it a dimension, right? Maybe it's supposed to be 1 1/4 long. And I think for this linkage, this could be pretty small. It probably could be, 3/8 of an inch wide. And then we need to put our holes in there. So I'm going to grab our hole command and put some dimensions on that. Oops. All right. So now we have our linkage. Exit sketch. Select the sketch. Features, Extruded Boss. And I'm going to make this 1/8 of an inch. Whoops, I forgot to delete the Y. So I got to go back and do that. Cancel that. Edit my sketch. Apologize. I forgot to delete the Y. Edit sketch. Here we go. All right, we should be good now. Exit sketch, Extruded Boss. Select that guy again, and there we go. I'm going to make this one 1/8 of an inch. And then hit save again. All right, I'm going to end this video, and then I'm going to show you a video on how to put it together in Solidworks.